There we go. Now I've got the mic lit up here. I'm in a good mood right now, Matt. Just want you to know. Are you much of a Metallica fan?
I like Metallica.
Just got my tickets for Metallica in Mexico City, September 27th and 29th of 2024. So I don't know if you know what Metallica is doing. They're doing the M72 World Tour, no repeat weekend. So you buy tickets for 2 nights. Both nights are two completely different sets. I mean, you will not hear the same song in each set. Plus, I get Greta Van Fleet and Mammoth opening up for Metallica. And then in August of 23, this next coming year here, I go to Metallica in Montreal for 2 nights. Little Pantera and Mammoth opening up in that one. So we are ready for Mexico, baby. Yeah.
That is awesome. You I'm sure will enjoy that.
Oh, I cannot. I've been dying to go to a metal or a rock concert in Central or South America because it looks like it's a freaking, soccer game. The reaction of the people in the stands. So I am definitely in a good mood right now, being able to get the tickets on the floor too to go see a little Metallica. So, what's your last concert you went to?
Last concert I went to was actually recently. It was the Goo Goo Dolls in Milwaukee. I saw them a couple weeks ago. So they've been my favorite band since I was like 8, 9. So I also have tickets for Blink-182, which is like a back to my childhood thing. They come to Chicago in May. So my wife and I and a friend of ours will be going. And concerts are fun.
A boy named Goo is a freaking classic, bro.
Yeah. Concerts are. I will tell you the best concert I ever went to. I was a high school senior, and we saw Green Day at the peak of their powers, and they were American Idiot and all that. Right. We saw them at Old Giant Stadium. I don't know if it still is, but at the time, it was the biggest concert they had ever done in North America. It was 90,000 people, and it was a wild night. It was a lot of fun. So it's good now with the. I don't want to say with the pandemic being over, but with the pandemic receding, now you can go to these concerts. You can see your favorite bands again. That's nice. It's nice to be able to go out and do that again.
Hey, amen, dude. A freaking man. I'm so glad that we're able to go to shows again. And I saw this show and it was like, okay, I gotta try to go to this.
Yeah.
You get to, it's rare. You've got only Pearl Jam does that, or The Cure, where you could go to 2 nights and they'll repeat very few songs the second night, like maybe 5 or 6 of them. And the rest, the second night, is completely different.
And hey, you have to go. You have to go when you can. God, it must have been now about 5 years ago. I went with a friend of mine. We saw Tom Petty at Wrigley Field, and we walked out of that. We almost didn't go. It was pouring, and we ended up under an overhang. And it was amazing. Tom Petty was awesome. We're like, man, next year if he comes back, we're going again. And a couple months later, he was gone. So we're like, thank God we went. I mean, it was, but hey, if you have the time, if you got your health, go.
I saw that same tour. I saw Tom Petty. I saw Peter Wolf open up for him, which is the former lead singer of Jay Giles.
Yep.
And it was at Rolling Hills in Queens, New York.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
That was the last time I saw Tom Petty. He died 2 months after that.
Yeah.
So
I'm Wrigley. And he was great. He was great. Like, you never in a million years would have thought, it's life.
So let me ask you something. We are obviously in, we're trying to get to where the good teams have been, as a fan base, as a team and all that, and start feeling all the good feelings and all that.
Sure.
And, you're rarely ever on prime time. So now this week, the Dolphins have become sexy. You know what sexy is because you're a freaking Chiefs fan. So sexy. You've been sexy for a while. But
took long enough. Yeah.
But you were playing a very unsexy team in that week.
Correct.
And the Chiefs and the Broncos got knocked out, and the Dolphins got elevated with the Chargers overall for that game that night. So we're in euphoria that people are actually like noticing the Dolphins. They care about the Dolphins nationally, all that kind of stuff, like any fan base and all that.
Sure.
So what is the opposite feeling from the fan base that is sexy and is used to being on prime time all the time and now gets knocked off a game? Not their fault. It had to be their stinking opponent, unfortunately. But how do they react now? Because I don't know what that feeling was like, because that was like 30 years ago. So I don't. There was no flexing 30 years ago.
I think as a Chiefs fan, there's almost like a thank God that we can just get to bed a little earlier.
Okay.
I mean, because I know when they play, because I have to do the podcast for Fansided with the Chiefs afterward. Like, I'm up till 3 a.m. working if they play on Sunday Night Football. And ironically, that game, I'm actually going to be in Kansas. Even though the game's in Denver, we're going out to do a live show out in Kansas City. And so I'm thrilled to death that they flexed that game because it makes my life easier. Now, fans are split. Some fans, they love being in prime time. And so there's just like, Denver sucks so damn bad. They got Patrick Mahomes out of prime time. It's almost impossible, but Denver stinks so bad they actually did it. And I think there's another part of the fan base. It's like, hey, look, man, playing in prime time is great, but I'm happy to play the game at 4:05. Let's get it done with by 7, and we can either relax and watch the Dolphins and the Chargers, or just spend some time with the kids and go to sleep. I'm in the latter. I'm actually excited in the sense I'd really like to watch the game with the Dolphins and the Chargers, and so as someone who has to cover the league, it's fine. But yeah, I think it's funny. Like, you don't see Mahomes get flexed out very often. So the Broncos.
No, it wasn't Mahomes. It's not his. Had nothing to do with the Chiefs.
Russell Wilson really made sure that he got out of prime time for this game. But I'll say this: I think the NFL made the right decision. I mean, who the hell wants to watch Denver get just killed again on national TV? So at least you get the Dolphins, you get the Chargers, you get Tua and Herbert. It'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, the storylines, the draft, all that crap that go with it.
Yeah.
It's they gobble all that shit up, the drama of the two, and how Herbert looked great early and now Tua looks better this year and all that. So all those storylines are going to be coming out and all that kind of stuff. So I get all of that, Now let's piggyback on, what the hell is going on in Denver, bro? I mean, I have never seen a defensive player just go after a franchise quarterback like Purcell went after, Russell on the sideline. And that was like, whoa, like what the hell is going on? Like that locker room if it's boiling like that on the field, and you and I have been around this business a long time. And look, last year in the middle of the winning streak, I'm telling everybody Flo's going to get fired. And the beat writers that I have coming on, they're like, what are you, crazy? This, that, because they're winning. And I'm like, yeah, bro, he's running roughshod through the building. And now everybody finds out about all the shit that Flo's doing. But I was already talking about that way ahead of everybody else because I knew what was going on inside that building. And you've been in the business, you know what it is. And sometimes even when things look all right, there could be shit going on behind the scenes that you don't know about or you'll never find out about. When you see it boil over like this, brother, it's deep, right?
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, look, I know, the Broncos came out and they said what they had saying. Oh, no, it was all positive. Like, look, man, I'm not saying that he didn't say it with a positive, like, come on, we can do this type of tone. Like maybe he did. But when you're screaming like that at your quarterback, it's because your offense stinks. That's why. And the defense is justifiably fed up, and they're sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of going out and giving up 17 points and losing every week because their offense can't be bothered to do anything. And look, here's another part of this.
By the way, it's been going on for a few years.
It's been going on for
not just 1 year
in Denver.
Right.
I mean, they've stopped teams that can't score points. And when you're a player who's been in that building for a few years, and you see your franchise, your organization, the people who pay you, when they go out and they acquire somebody from outside the building and they make that person the highest paid person in the building all of a sudden, and he's not pulling his weight, that's a big problem. Like, I've had more than a few GMs say to me that they consider when they pay guys in free agency how much they're paying them, not only for cap implications, but is he the highest paid guy in the room? Is he higher paid than the guys who we drafted and developed and who are stars here and who have bled here? Because that matters. And when you bring in Russell Wilson, nobody in Denver, I don't know if I can swear on this show. Nobody in Denver, okay. Nobody in Denver gives a shit that he won a Super Bowl in Seattle. Nobody cares. Like, all that matters, good or bad, is what you do in Denver. And when he goes up, I knew this was done after two things. One, which I heard this summer, when I found out he had an office in the building, that was strike like 1 and 2. And then when they lose to the Colts on Thursday night, and he is by far the main reason they lose the game, and he goes up in the presser after the game and says, "Hey, Broncos country, let's ride." It's over. It's over. Right. Nobody in that building respects you anymore. And then to continuously follow up with how bad he has been week in and week out, and now you're seeing it boil over, to use the term you used. I don't know how they come back from it. Like, they're going to get rid of Hackett, and that's all fine and well. The players are still going to loathe him until he plays like a guy deserving of his contract. And to get from where he is now to get to that point, I don't see it.
Does Hackett survive this?
I mean, he survives for another month, I think. He survives for another month. He's not surviving for a second.
No, that's what I mean. The season. I mean, does he survive the season? Is what I mean.
You know what, man? If you don't fire him after that Carolina game, I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, honestly, because you're not going to fire him after that. What are you going to do? I mean, maybe. If the Chiefs just lay it on them in one of these games and they beat them like 45-3, I mean, maybe that's embarrassing enough that it's just like, all right, he's got to go. But I thought after the Carolina game, I thought he might get fired. I thought that game was so bad against such an awful team. That might be it. But now I get the feeling that Denver's just going to ride this thing out for the last, whatever it is, 5 games, 6 games. And then, it's going to be one of those, like, the second the last game is over, okay, he's been, relieved of his duties, and we're going to make an exhaustive search. But honestly, if you are a prospective head coach, would you go there?
No.
Like, why would you go there? I mean, unless you just have no other options, and you're an older coach who's always wanted to be a head coach, and that's just your only shot at, like David Culley in Houston a year ago. Unless you're that guy, why the hell would you go to coach Denver? That situation's abominable.
Yeah. No, that's it. And you're going to try to find a guy to fix Russell. You're going to try to find a guy to put the right system in and that's going to be a really tough task for you at this point. When you look at Russell, is it that he's lost his mojo? Is it that it's a combination of all kinds of things? Because I don't necessarily look at it like physical ability is gone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's because it doesn't look like he's breaking down. So what is it when you look at it? How do you decipher what the hell the problem is?
I think for me, he still has his arm.
Yeah.
He can't move. Like, I think, the thing that always gets lost with Russell Wilson, everybody always talks about, he used to run for all this yardage, which, sure. But he was always great at moving around behind the line of scrimmage and and opening lanes and buying time. And then he was always one of the better deep ball throwers in the NFL. So I always thought his greatest strength was when the play broke down, he was able to capitalize on that because he could just wing it 50, 55 yards down the field. He doesn't move anymore. Like, forget rushing yardage for a minute. He doesn't move. He never leaves the pocket. So I think what you're left with is this guy who's a shorter quarterback who now doesn't have the lanes and the windows that he's always had. And honestly, just from watching him, and I've watched every snap they've played this year, I don't think he wants to get hit. Like, I think there's get rid of it, get rid of the ball, dump it off, whatever. If I'm the coach going in there, I'm telling him, we're playing a system where you have to move. We're going to roll you out. We're going to get you on the move, get out of the pocket, and make plays out of structure a little bit. That's when he's at his best. In this offense, he's being asked to just drop back and throw the ball. And look, he should be able to do it a lot better than he's done this year. I mean, I'm not exonerating him, but I don't think it fits his skill sets. I also think, look, looking back on it, Seattle, I think Seattle knew what it was doing when it was like, you know what? We're ready to just move on. We're ready. It's time. He had been slowly getting worse in Seattle, but like was still very good. And then I think the combination of leaving Seattle and this system, it's just been a cliff dive. I mean, it's just been from he's still very good, maybe not what he once was, to he's legitimately maybe the worst quarterback in football of a guy who's like played the majority of his games for his team this year.
The Odell Beckham situation. It looks like Jerry still wants to sign him.
Yes.
Your thoughts on whoever tries to sign him?
Like I think it's one of these things where he is a very good player. I think his impact's going to be a little overstated no matter where he goes. Like, if Dallas signs him, partially because it's Odell and partially because it's Dallas, you're going to hear this drumbeat on every national show in the morning about how they are now a favorite. I don't believe that. Like, he's a good player who can certainly help. I'd also say he hasn't played a down in 10 months. And to expect him to come out and just be dominant, like, I think is hard to believe. So certainly can play and can help. And I think he'll eventually, here in the next week or two, he'll sign with a contender. But I don't think that the play is going to match the hype at this point. He just hasn't played in so long. I think it's going to take him a little while to get going. So certainly worth the flyer. But I don't think, you're going to hear him when he gets signed, you're going to hear people talk about it like it's this mammoth move in the NFL. I don't know that it's that at this juncture.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he'll stay healthy for you for the remainder of the season, whatever he does play, because he is definitely a sack of injuries. Who is the bigger fraud? The 7-4 Jets, the 7-4 Ravens, the 7-4 Titans, or the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings?
You would think it would be one of the 7-4 teams. I actually think it's Minnesota. I think Tennessee is exactly what Tennessee is.
Has
like,
been.
Right. Like, I don't think Tennessee is different than that. The Jets, I think it depends on what your thought is of the Jets. Like, if your thought is, oh, the Jets are a contender, then yeah, they're complete frauds. If your thought of the Jets is they can play really good defense and offensively, like they're probably at least a little better with White, okay, sure. The Ravens, to me, we've talked about the Ravens a lot over the course of the year. The Ravens are just what they are. Like, the Ravens are going to get in the playoffs, and if they've got to score any kind of high scoring game, 28
touchdowns,
they're going to
touchdowns. If they have to just score touchdowns,
right, they're going to lose because they can't throw the ball. I mean, if you look at their passing outputs the last 2 months, it's what they are. They can't throw the football. They don't have the
receiver. He's not a passer. He's not a passer.
Is inconsistent. Yeah. Minnesota, I think, is the bigger fraud because at 9-2, you think like that's a Super Bowl team. I don't know that I'd pick Minnesota to win one playoff game. Like, Minnesota scares the hell out of me. And I don't even care who they play. Like Seattle, Washington, the Giants. It could be any of those teams. I have no idea what the hell Minnesota is going to do. None. So you watch them, and every week that I watch Minnesota, I'm like, I have no idea how they're winning games. None. But they keep doing it. I have no faith in them in a playoff game. Absolutely none. Like, just sheer terror. So I think Minnesota is the team that I'd have to point to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because it's one of those things. I've never really been a believer of Kirk Cousins, overall.
Yeah.
I think he does a serviceable job.
Right, he's fine.
That's what he is. He's just a fine quarterback, but I don't think he's really the difference maker that is going to put you over the top. Although, man, that receiver, holy shit, that kid is special, brother. Wow.
It's him and it's Tyreek Hill. Like, those are the two best receivers in the NFL. I mean, that guy, Jefferson's amazing in the sense of if the ball's anywhere near him, he's catching the ball. Like, to have the body control he has, and he's not a huge guy. Like, it's not like you look at him and you see Randy Moss, who is was a big, tall, physical freak in nature. He's not that. I mean, like, he's not diminutive, but he's not huge. Like, he doesn't have a body frame like Calvin Johnson did, where you're like, okay, well, he's just gonna out leap everybody. It's incredible how he can go up in a crowd and not be taller than everybody else, and he comes down with the ball almost every single time. It's freakish.
Look, you've got to keep the rivalry stuff going with the divisions, right? And I get what's going on, but the NFC South is like 5-6 right now, and you're leading
really
that division. I almost feel like we should have a play-in game where they should play the worst playoff caliber type team from another division inside that conference before you can advance to the official playoffs or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just so weird to have a division that, I mean, we've had divisions where, somebody makes it at 8-8.
Right.
I mean, these are going to be sub 500 teams, like by a couple of games by the time the playoffs roll around.
Yeah. I've always felt, because we've only had Panthers did it once at 7-8-1, and the Washington did it out of the NFC East a couple of years ago. Seattle did it once. I think it's been 3 times.
Yeah, the Cardinals did it on 8-8 once. I think I
They were
remember.
8-8, yeah. I always feel like if you're under 500, like, you getting an automatic bid because you win your division should go away. Like, I know there are people like, somebody's got to represent the division. Why? Who the hell wants to see the NFC South in the playoffs? Why?
Right.
Why the hell should that team be represented in the playoffs? I mean,
like the NFC East right now.
Right.
If the way they're pacing right now. So let's say the Washington Commanders are out of the mix.
Yes.
Okay. So then Tampa needs to beat the Washington Commanders first to get into the playoffs. And I wouldn't
even give them that. Like, you don't get in the playoffs. That's it. You don't get in. And just move everybody up a slot. I don't need to see Tampa. Like, what?
No.
All these people who are always so beholden to this, like, well, it's got to mean something to win the division. No, the hell it does. If you're 8-9, it doesn't mean anything. You shouldn't get celebrated. You stink. Why? Just because you're in the NFC South, because you're better than 3 other teams that stink even worse? Yeah. I mean, I don't believe that. Now, I don't have a problem with it. If you make the playoffs, you're 9-8, you win your division, and some teams 12-5, and they got to go be a wild card team. All right, you know what? Well, that's the way the system works. But when you are under 500, to me, you get out of the playoffs, and you know it's really going to be crazy.
They're going to be like 7-10 and win the division.
Unbelievable. You know it's going to happen. You and I both know this is going to happen. Brady's going to get in at like 7-10, and they're going to beat somebody in the playoffs. You know it's coming. Like, Brady is going to somehow cobble together some game where they beat, like, whoever the hell it is, Dallas, and then they get just eviscerated in the second round. But it's been funny. Like, Seattle got in, they had that Beastquake game against New Orleans where they won. Washington actually played Tampa, and Tampa went to the Super Bowl that year. Tampa beat them.
Yeah.
And Carolina beat the Cardinals in a game where the Cardinals started like Ryan Lindley. It was one of the worst playoff games I've ever seen. The Bucs are going to get in the playoffs because they're going to win that division. And I guarantee you they're going to play some team and beat them because it's Brady in a playoff game. And then they'll lose, and that'll be the end of his career, you would think. But yeah, the Bucs are a mess.
All right, tell them about Stacking the Box, my friend.
Sure. You can check out Stacking the Box any week on Tuesdays at noon Eastern. You can check it out on the Stacking the Box YouTube channel or wherever you find your podcast. You can subscribe, you can download, you can leave a rating and a review, which would be awesome. Right. And then, you can follow all my content on my Twitter feed, which is just at Matt Verderame. And I have my quarterback rankings out today. I believe Tua is number 2 in the league right now. So
Mahomes won 2-2. Yeah,
that's it.
Sounds
I mean,
right
right
about
now,
right.
it's where he's got to be. He's been awesome. I really am looking forward to seeing him against San Francisco this weekend. It's an opportunity for the Dolphins.
I just hope they can figure out the line, brother, without Armstead.
They got to block.
That
is one thing against the Niners. You better block, because you don't block, it's a problem against San Francisco. Get the ball out of his hands. Get the ball out of his hands. And look, I'll leave the Dolphins fans with this thought, okay? Don't worry about the people who, after the game, if you guys win, who are like, oh, all he did was get the ball out quicker. That's the point against San Francisco. You know who else did that? Mahomes. And the Chiefs scored 44 points. He was throwing the ball before he hit his back foot. It didn't. That's the point against San Francisco. Get the ball out and beat the secondary, because the front is hell on earth.
Because of the Armstead thing, let me run something by you. I think, because they're going to probably put Shell back to right tackle, who actually did a good job for the last 3 weeks, but the poor kid had to play left. And, they throw you in a pinch from right to left. It's brutal for you to make that change. So I think Greg Little will probably play left because of Armstead being out, and Jackson re-injured that ankle. But Jackson, they think he could come back this week. I would go max protect all the time against San Francisco with 6 linemen. And why do I say that? Because they have the luxury of having something that most teams don't have, Waddle and Hill. Right. You cannot stay with those two guys. They will find holes in the defense quickly, and Tua is very good at getting rid of the ball quickly. And for me, I would do a lot of max protect this week and next week, because you've got to deal with Bozas on both sides of the state.
Yeah. No, listen, I think you can do that, or you can just say, look, we're going to chip every play. I mean, there's Kansas City did that. Kansas City left Jerick McKinnon in the game pretty much the entire game. And Jerick McKinnon's job was, you are going to chip that edge every play. And
Alec Ingold. Okay.
Yeah,
Alec Ingold will have to do that, yeah.
I think sometimes, look, give your quarterback 3 seconds to throw the ball. That's the name of the game. And if that means chipping a guy, if that means doubling a guy, fine. By the way, the Chiefs did it with Kelsey all the time in that game too. Coming out in a release, chip him. Fine. I think, look, the Niners, their corners are probably the weak points of the team. Charvarius Ward's a good player. I watched him for many years in Kansas City. He's a good player. He's not a great player, but he's a good player. Mosley's out for the year with a torn ACL. I think you can throw on the corners. The safeties are very good. Linebackers are very good. The corners are probably, if you can hold up and get the ball out against those corners, I think you could do something. So that is where, and you got to be able to run the ball against them a little bit. You have to be able to run the ball a little bit. Don't be great against them run the ball, but you've got to slow down that rush. You get in second, third, and long against the Niners, you're in for a long day.
Yep, I'm with you there. All right, follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and catch him here every week doing his thing. Matt, as always, have a great week, my friend. Enjoy the football. Always appreciate you.
Absolutely. You too, man.
Thank you. There you go. We step out of the huddle.
This is the Big O Show.